Hello, Ashenmore here, getting into my Week 4 battle with T4U and his team, the Boston Red Sox. As you can see by his team list in the top right hand of the screen, his team is a Tapu Koko Synergy team. So that was his first pick, and he's picked all of the different unburdened things and things that can take advantage of electric terrain. So he's got the Hawlucha, he's got the Slurpuff, he's got the Alolan Raichu, and then on top of that, he's got other very, very hyper offensive threats, such as Zygarde 50% and Mega Alakazam. So right out the gate, he's kind of taken more my take on a draft league team. Uh, Very, very hyper offense. Also has some decent walls to kind of pivot to in Vaporeon, Donphan, and Snorlax. So all of those are threats to keep in mind. Uh, Now, what is my strategy going to be? I have a balanced team. There is no physical way that I can out offense this guy. Can't happen. I'm not running Rain. I'm not running Sun. Uh, I don't really have any synergies like that to take advantage of. So, what can I do? My thought is go as bulky as possible. Invest bulk into literally everything. Say, the hell with speed. The hell is trying to sweep that way. It's not going to happen. Also, this is the perfect opportunity to potentially use Trick Room on Diancie. So that is exactly what we're going to do. So my build is going to kind of revolve around that. Hazard support because he doesn't have access to a lot of good defoggers. Yes, I think Slurpuff can do it, and that's probably his best one. But otherwise, he's going to have to sacrifice move slots on Koko and Hawlucha in order to do his defogs. And I don't think he's actually going to be able to do that, specifically because then he can't threaten the Swampert and he can't threaten the Marowak, and that's going to give me a lot of advantage. So, my very first Pokemon is going to be Diancie. I am not intending on Mega Evolving it unless I absolutely have to. Keeping those base 150 defenses up is probably going to be what I'm going to go for. Maximum special defense, that will absorb hits very easily from the Koko, from the Mega Alakazam. We're going to run Protect just to scout moves. Obviously, the Trick Room, and then Moonblast / Diamond Storm hits everything pretty effectively. We can also, under certain conditions, survive Zygarde 50%, 1,000 arrows, that horrible move. Now, well, one thing to kind of think about, I did consider like HP Ice on this build. I did consider some other moves other than Protect, maybe like Reflect or Light Screen to kind of, provide myself a little bit more defense boost for the team. But my thought is if I have Diancie out and I'm going to use one of those moves, I'd rather just use Trick Room at that point. So obviously, absolute minimum speed that we can possibly get to. This will allow us to usually be slower than Snorlax, unless he happens to go like min speed on Snorlax. I don't expect that to be the case, though. I do think that Snorlax would be a likely bring for him, but I'm not too worried about that. And that's because of the next Pokemon that I'm going to talk about, which is going to be Licky Licky. So if you look at his team, what does he have? He has no Steel types. He has no Rock types. He does have one single Ghost type in Gourgeist, but Gourgeist is not a good bring against my team. I do not expect to see that. So we're going to run Choice Band Licky again, reprising its role from the last game that I played. We're going to be running Explosion. That will kill literally anything on his team one hit. Doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter what its investment is. So this is a decent lead to just kind of throw out there and just explode if I want to. And if I don't want to explode, I can just hit return. Power Whip isn't going to kill Vaporeon, but it will do large amounts of damage to it. So I can kind of, save myself having to explode if it is worn down a tidbit. Return's just going to hit overall very, very high coverage. And then Ice Punch is going to kill that Zygarde. It's going to kill Donphan. So that's kind of the reasoning behind having that. Also going to be min speed. That way I can better take advantage of Trick Room, be slower than that Snorlax. Potentially I could even set up a sweep with this guy under the right conditions. But generally speaking, this is going to be my lead. Also, kind of in this Trick Room core that we've got going on here, we're going to be playing Alolan Marowak again. There is a decent school of thought as to what ability to run here. I thought about potentially running the Rock Head for the prevention of recoil damage, but fire attacks don't really hit anything on his team that Shadow Bone, Earthquake, Low Kick, and Thunder Punch can't hit. So going Lightning Rod seems to be the better choice that allows us to absorb hits from the Koko and absorb hits from the Raichu. Really, Koko can't do anything to this, so that's pretty good. He does kind of have to fear like Mega Alakazam. Shadow Ball does have to fear Zygarde Thousand Arrows. Uh, does sort of have to fear Donphan, but can also kill Donphan, so I'm not too worried about that. But if we can set up a Trick Room and get this guy out on the field, he's going to do a lot of damage. He'll survive most stuff. Really, the Low Kick is mostly there for the Snorlax. Shadow Bone's mostly there for the coverage. Also, we can survive one hit from Mega Alakazam that's not Shadow Ball. And potentially under some conditions, we can survive Shadow Ball as well. So we'll see what happens there. One other thing to kind of talk about right here is, since he's got Tapu Koko, he's going to have electric terrain up a lot. This means that we can take advantage of it to some extent. Now, I don't have any stab electric types, but I do have Thunder Punch on this. That will guarantee a kill on Howlucha, even if it has its electric seed buff with the plus defense. And it will also kill in one shot the Vaporeon if we happen to get walled by that, as long as electric terrain is up. So, just another thing to kind of keep in mind here. Now, why Earthquake? It seemed like a good coverage option. It's also something else that can hit the Koko and the Raichu and guarantee a kill. Shadow Bone doesn't always kill the Raichu. Well, I lied. It does always kill the Raichu. Doesn't always kill the Koko if it's at max HP. All right, obviously, we've got 3 more slots. One of the other things I mentioned at the very beginning of this video was hazard support. So, his only really good defogger being, Slurpuff and maybe like Donphan for Rapid Spin. And I don't expect to see Donphan because I have so much stuff against it. We're going to be running Swampert. This Swampert is going to be running Earth Power, Ice Beam as kind of its coverage moves. Stealth Rock is going to be there for the hazard support, like we said, and I'm going to be running Protect. And Protect is going to be there to scout moves, specifically to scout grass moves, Hidden Power Grass off the Koko or the Raichu. If I can find out if he's running that, then I know that my Swampert can't counter it, and I know I can usually, switch over to my Marowak and counter it that way. So we're going max special defense on this Swampert. I thought about going max physical defense to be more of a foil to the Zygarde, but I figured the special defense would be better. It would allow me to better survive Mega Alakazam and better survive fairy attacks off of the Koko. So if he was like Choice Specs and I didn't have any special defense investment, he could potentially do 50% of my HP with a Specs Dazzling Gleam, which I didn't want to have happen. Then, for our other hazard support mon, we're going to be running Greninja, which is going to be running Toxic Spikes. Hopefully this will allow me to help rack up the damage with all my Protect Scouting moves. So if I can find an opportunity to get out there and put up Toxic Spikes on the ground, that'd be great. Ice Beam allows us to outspeed and OHKO the Zygarde. Hydro Pump just has general good coverage, and Water Shuriken is like a last resort priority move to clean up a Howlucha in case it tries to sweep, or the Tapu Koko, potentially doing upwards of 50% damage to both of them. So, in a pinch, this would be something I could do. In the very last slot, we're running Celesteela, the good old rocket ship. Hasn't really done anything for me yet, but hopefully it will come through in this game for me. We're going to be running Protect Leech Seed. This will allow us to scout the Koko, see if he's going to do some predictive moves or if he's just going to, spam Thunder against us. Leech Seed will allow us to out-sustain Vaporeon or Snorlax and also just generally force things out. Heavy Slam's a good overall coverage move. And then Hidden Power Ice is going to be in the last slot. Specifically, this will prevent the Zygarde from setting up in our face and punish him if he tries to go for a Dragon Dance or something else against us. It can also hit the Howlucha, but really Howlucha is going to get hit much, much more hard by Heavy Slam. So that's really our team, the way we've got it set up so far. So if we can survive hits, if we can do good predicts, if we can get our hazards out on the field and start racking up damage, and then potentially set up that Trick Room with the Alola Marowak or with the Licky Licky, we can end this game. We can do a pretty good job. I feel decent about it. Not amazing because this team is very, very, very difficult to combat. But we'll see what happens and get into the battle video now. All right, welcome to the battle portion of the video. So, looking at his team right off the bat, it's about exactly what I expected it to be, except maybe I expected Snorlax instead of Vaporeon, but this seems fine to me. So a lot of Coco teams like to lead Coco. He could also lead the Slurpuff for like a sticky web play, and that wouldn't necessarily be bad under most conditions. But the way I've kind of got my team set up, it doesn't really matter. Uh, so I'm thinking about it. I'm probably just going to lead Licky Licky. That is what I planned on doing anyway. If he does lead the Coco, I can just hit Explosion and kill literally anything on his team. And if he leads anything else, I can probably just go for the return or whatever relevant coverage move I want to go with. So that is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to lead that Licky Licky, and I'm going to hit return against this Slurpuff as he sticky webs. Now, at this point, the Slurpuff is low. I do know that he's faster than I am. I figure, hey, I'm just going to keep hitting return. He's either going to sack this off or he's going to switch into something else. That's when we get hit with Endeavor, a move that I did not expect to see. So we do end up taking that Slurpuff out, but he has pretty much made our Licky Licky worthless in response. So at this point, Licky Licky has got to be thrown away. So I'm just going to stay in against this Alakazam, and I'm going to hit return again. I don't expect that he's not going to use an attack move. He's definitely going to use an attack move. Now, could I have switched into something else? Yes, but then that would have gotten endeavored, and there's not really anything else I would have rather lost. Considering that Licky Licky was just kind of an explosive lead, I'm kind of fine with it going down here. Except for we get hit by Charge Beam, of all things. That's going to give Alakazam a special attack boost, and we're going to have to send in Diancie. Specifically, we're sending in Diancie because that is our highest special attack resistor on our team. So we're going to send that in. We've got to scare this thing out. Has to happen. This thing could potentially even just sweep the team if he has the right moves. So we're going to go for a Trick Room. I'm assuming I'm going to survive because I've calced it out, and there's really nothing that can kill me at this point that he could have. But he ends up going for a Size Shock, so he completely ignores all of our special bulk that we put in. But our Trick Room is going to force him out into Vaporeon, and we will use a Diamond Storm that will deal a moderate amount of damage to the Vaporeon. So at this point, we really have to counter that Vaporeon, so I'm actually going to go out into the Celesteela to set up Leech Seed and force this thing out. It is going to eat up all my turns of Trick Room, and I'm probably not going to get another Trick Room off, but it was kind of worth it to stop the Alakazam, so he is going to protect our Leech Seed, and we are going to go for it again on his Tapu Koko switch-in. So this is great, this is fine. Now we can see what kind of move set this Koko has, what he's going to be going for. So I'm going to use that Protect, and the Protect is going to stop his U-turn, so he's going to stay in and he's going to take a little bit more chip damage from this Leech Seed. At this point, I'm kind of thinking, what exactly do we do here? It's very obvious we can't leave the Celesteela in at this point. If he clicked Thunderbolt right here, that would be an OHKO very easily. Not going to happen. So we're going to switch out into the Swampert. We're going to absorb that Thunderbolt and just generally kind of force this Tapu Koko out. However, I'm also going to go ahead and scout here with Protect, just in case there's an HP Grass that is going to stop his U-turn, and he's going to take a little bit more chip damage. So Koko's already about 51% thanks to that Leech Seed. At this point, the best option here, because we know he's going to switch the Koko out, he would have gone for HP Grass if he had it. He's going to U-turn. I'm going to hit Stealth Rock, so it's a good opportunity to just go ahead and set that up right now. So he goes out into Vaporeon. We get the Stealth Rocks up for free. That's great. Now, something I didn't really think about at this point in the battle. He's got Vaporeon out. It's obviously probably a defensive set. At this point, I really should have gone into Greninja, and I should have taken the opportunity to go ahead and throw out a Toxic Spikes, because I know that there's really almost no way that he could have a defog for it. But that is not what I do. I end up going to the Celesteela to scare him out again with the Leech Seed, because it worked the first time. And we throw in Celesteela, and we get Crit Scald, and we get burned. So let's think about the last 4 games that we've played. First game, Celesteela got beaten by a Scald burn on the very first turn it was out. Second game, he did sort of what he was supposed to do. He absorbed a hit from Stakataka. Third game, we got paralyzed first shot by a discharge, and now we are getting burned again here. So Celesteela is pretty much a status magnet at this point. So I'm 0 for 3 as far as status moves go. I'm still going to go for that Leech Seed, and I am going to get it restore just a little bit of HP to keep us a little bit healthy. And then he's going to switch back out into the Tapu Koko. We are going to go for the Heavy Slam, and because we had the burn, we are not going to get the kill. He is going to heal back up with that Wish. So we're going to go ahead and protect here, scout against the next move. Kind of expecting him to go Thunderbolt. He goes Dazzling Gleam instead. Now at this point, I really had a couple of different options. And what should have happened probably is I probably should have gone into Alolan Marowak, and I really thought about it here. But my other thought was he's probably just going to U-turn out, so why not just go ahead and stay in, go for the Leech Seed, and then we'll Leech Seed whatever he pivots into, wear it down a little bit more. Maybe even if he goes into the Zygarde, we can start clicking HP Ice. So that was kind of the thought process here. However, he's going to kind of read the situation well, go into the Thunderbolt. That will cost us the Celesteela. Now at this point, I know that there's absolutely nothing he's got on the Koko that can deal with the Alolan Marowak. So I'm going to go ahead and go into that. Shadow Bone is the play here. That will kill most things on his team, or at least do 50% to anything that happens to come in. So he is going to U-turn out. That's not going to do anything to us. Go into the Zygarde. Zygarde's going to take a significant chunk of damage from that Shadow Bone. So here, obviously, with the Zygarde out, we have to worry about Thousand Arrows, which, depending on what his build might be, if he's choice banned, could kill the Alolan Marowak straight up. So wanting to conserve the Alolan Marowak, I'm going to switch out, and I'm going to get punished for that with a substitute play. Now, unfortunately, I'm going to have to let Diancie go down here. The Thousand Arrows is going to take it out. And at this point, this substitute has already bought him a ton of time. The only thing I have left on my team that can take that 1,000 arrows is going to be the Swampert. Unfortunately, since we invested into special bulk and not physical bulk, we're not going to be able to take it exceedingly well. So we are going to sit in here. We are going to go for our Ice Beam, but we are going to take over 50%, just over 50%. Now, with the Leftovers recovery and doing the calculations, this was a roll in order to actually kill me with the 2-shot. But it doesn't really matter. He ends up getting a crit here with his 1,000 arrows. So Zygarde is down. Our only hope at this point, because of that Sticky Web slow, is to use our priority move on Greninja, which has about a 50% chance of killing him, as long as it hits at least 3 times. So we go ahead and do that. Water Shuriken is going to take out the Zygarde. But at this point, looking at what he's got left on his team, there is literally no way that we're possibly going to win this game. I recognize that that's the case. I'm kind of looking, what could I do here? Could I switch into the Alolan Marowak? Is that something that would, help me out? And I kind of thought, no, that's probably not the case. So we're just going to leave Greninja in, get eaten by a Thunderbolt, send out the Marowak, hit our Shadow Bone. He ends up actually playing right into the Lightning Rod there. But Tapu Koko is going to go down. Now we can hit Thunder Punch, and we will kill this Hawlucha. There's literally no way it could kill me in return. And at least our differential isn't going to be -4 for this battle. It's only going to be -2. Because I expect that I'm going to eat a Shadow Ball here. and that is exactly what will happen. And that pretty much wraps it up for this game. So, what could have been done differently? Really, back to the beginning, uh, the play where I didn't go into the Greninja against the Vaporeon and try to drop at least one layer of toxic spikes was a big deal. Uh, Getting burned on the Celesteela, that was also a big deal. And obviously, that wouldn't have happened if I had gone into the Greninja. That would have allowed me to better check that Tapu Koko. Eating the Thunderbolt from the Tapu Koko when I had two really good switch ins, also kind of not the best play on my part. Uh, so at this point in the season, I'm 1-3. It's not the best record right now. Uh, some of it is probably just getting used to playing balance in general. Some of it's probably just getting used to the team. I don't think I've ever really worked with a team this complex. I'm kind of happy still with the mons that I have and the options that I have. I think at this point it's really just me not playing them or not building them to like the max efficiency that they could be. So I don't know, some things to think about for strategy. I may also consider some trades here at some point. Specifically, like an electric type would be nice. I think all of my battles that I've come into so far, I've really been hurting for like an actual electric type, and Silvally doesn't really fill that niche the way I want it to. So that's something to think about. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the battle. We'll be getting into the next one against Dr. Piplup next week. So hope you continue watching.